Damian Questiny sent me an email for a question, and it does have to do with the water element, if you don't mind. And I know water can contain memory. That much I know. But he phrased his question to you, Dr. Miller, in light of new physics using the elements, specifically pertaining to water, is it possible to control, shape, and steer water? Can the process of cavitation be utilized to store data and information within the air pockets, then electrify?
Well, this is the new direction in cold fusion processes. Mark LeClaire, MIT, you talked about cavitation processes. This is when a drop of water falls and hits a pool of water. A series of things happen. The first thing is the drop of water, because it has velocity and mass, goes into the pool of water briefly and then pops back up and again as a drop of water, except it's no longer a drop of water. What it is a bubble of water that has trapped the medium in which it's falling. And inside that bubble is a cavitation going into the out of like a torus. And really, what actually happened is when the drop hits the pool, there are waves that go outward. Those waves can be seen as the future. The waves that go inward with the drop going down, it causes inner waves to go inward. They slap and form a very special kind of water called exclusion zone water, or the fourth phase of water. That's a book by Dr. Jerry Pollack, whom I worked with at the University of Washington School of Medicine, Department of Anesthesiology. And back in the early 70s, Jerry was my lead. I had top secret clearances in the work I did, and so I was on fourth floor in with what were called the boys from Brazil. And we were doing all kinds of different studies in the paranormal studies for the military at that time. This is where I formed Navy SEALs, was in Seattle. That was called SEAL Corp out of Amherst. Now, water, whenever it's, let's begin by understanding what water is. Water is the smallest molecule that we know of that has a dipole moment. Helium, He2, is relatively uninteresting and neutral, but water is H2O with a dipole moment either going levo, rotary, or the other direction. It's called para and ortho water. And when water touches anything, these various phases of water, which is the most interesting one, is hydrogen peroxide, H2O2, with a third hydrogen molecule, making it H3O2, or exclusion zone water. And that exists in a body of water and is what touches a medium, like in a wave, that causes the actual place of joining where it touches. The exclusion zone water is moving faster than the wave itself, and is how a wave works and surfing. And when water touches anything, it forms what we call a kind of arching up of what is it called? It's a type of static electricity where it it starts but the thing is, it's different in terms of what it's touching. If it touches,
that's what my Dr. Miller. This is what my listener is asking. The last part of his question is, perhaps if it continues the cavitation process, could you potentially exponential surface area for pure data? You use it for pure data memory.
Well, yeah, that is exactly. In fact, we now believe that structured water inside microtubules is where the residing of the soul lies. At the moment of death, whenever someone dies, at the very moment of death, there's a 5 gram weight loss in the body. And it's across the board. It happens. And we don't know what that is, except in current forms of Chinese medicine, they would call that qi, where you poke the left arm and a reaction occurs on the right arm. Now, how does that work? Well, we have no circulatory system in the body described in Western medicine, and so, with the blood flow and or the nerve tissue and things of that nature, there's no nerve trunks that go from the left arm to the right arm. How come I can poke the left arm in acupuncture and cause a response? And the way that Hammeroff and others are now describing microtubules, these are very small rings of proteins that when water gets inside it, it changes the water. And that is the difference with is when we have solid-state physics, gallium and arsenic are the two primary metals that are used to form what is called the forbidden zone, where the gallium and arsenic touch, it's gallium arsenide, that place of just between the two metals is where we have our checksum error period, or where you store data. That is called the forbidden zone. And in water, that is 6 zeros more efficient because it's at 1.4 nanometers. It's in terms of, there are 6 zeros more efficiency in storing information in what is called the exclusion zone, where water touches something else. If water touches plastic, there's like the surface tension is essentially nothing. When it touches glass, you see a little bit of an arching up. When it touches tellurium, the water will run right up the wall and over the other edge as high as 6 or 7 inches in surface tension. Is it possible at all to control the water from one location to another while maintaining the integrity of the internal contents, whether it be a person or a sound bite? I'm not sure. I don't know. I would presume I could infer by doing some logic things based on what we do know as a model. This is all new conceptual concepts. Who knows? What we do know is that 5-gram weight loss is most likely qi. I have, for example, when I watched Cassius Clay knock out Sonny Liston, Cassius Clay did this big right roundhouse blow, lifted Sonny Liston up off his feet backwards, and he fell back on his back out cold. And on closer inspection, you watch the video closely, and Cassius Clay didn't even touch Sonny Liston. How did that work? Well, what happened exactly is that I've had Sifu, Bruce Lee, will demonstrate a 1-inch blow where he can punch a 1-inch and with intent push the individual across the mat and into the wall. Now that's
I think that happened with Muhammad Ali. They slowed it down by frame, and he didn't even touch him with his glove before the guy.
And yet, I've seen this happen, and where that Tonkin, that pool of qi is located, which is microtubules and structured water, is below the groin, between your legs, that's on the outside of the skin. And you bring it up, and you can push it out as you're doing Tai Chi, and with intent, there is a transfer of information that can be devastating.
Say that again. Say that one more time for the listeners, because that's pretty powerful. We really need to hear this. Say it again.
Well, where you lift in visual, in your mind's eye, again, this is an altered state, with your mind's eye, you pull this Tonkin, or energy, if you will, which we call chi, and you can transfer that information from psyche into matter using what we call chi, or a type of a microtubule with structured water in it. And the amount of information, because of the smallness, how small water is, molecular size, physics, so 1.4 nanometers, we're talking about an extremely large quantity of information that could be held in 5 grams. When I say that, I mean all the possible past and future lives of everything you could imagine in the multiverse. Now, where does that water go when it leaves the body?